Welcome to the Denver Protest Podcast. It is Sunday, October 26th. I am here, as always, with our co-hosts, Constant Gardner and Bug. How's it going, guys?
Hi, it's going great.
Doing pretty good, too. How about you?
Doing good. We are also here with Josh Abrams. I'm very excited to have Josh on to talk about what's going on in his world, in his life. Josh, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. No, thank you for taking the time. So if you just wanted to start with, kind of a broad background about your story. I know we've had some communication, but just give our listeners a little bit of an idea about who you are, where you come from, and what some of the stuff that you've been working on lately is.
I moved out to Colorado. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I moved out here about 3 years ago. My normal profession is in IT, as in like programmer, system administrator, just in the tech world. And more recently, I've been having to focus on fighting for kind of like civil rights and constitutional violations in the federal courts with the Colorado unemployment system. I've been self-studying law and doing this for well over 12 years, and I'm trying to advocate for the rights that other people struggle to understand the legal system like I do.
Okay, awesome. Could you tell us a bit about your experience, like your personal experience with the unemployment system?
Yes. So in 2023, I had just moved to Colorado after working in North Carolina for a year. And essentially, while I was working in Colorado and qualified for Colorado unemployment benefits, the state refused to consider or include my out-of-state wages from other states when I was doing cross-state wages, and that kind of kicked off the whole series of events that kind of opened up that they were mismanaging and being constitutionally deficient in a lot of their practices, such as not sending out notices or appealable decisions, or basically like First Amendment retaliation by issuing integrity holds on people who were asking for them to correct basic errors. And today it's currently pending in the Colorado District Federal Courts, where I'm petitioning for them to reform and expose that system.
I have a follow-up question. So when you say the cross-state wages, were you like working for the same company when you were in New Jersey and then you moved out to Colorado? Like, can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, so it's not the same company. It's that I was working I usually do a lot of contractor work in the IT world. So I usually take on 3-month or 6-month, a year long contract. And I had 4 different contracts in another state. And then when I moved to Colorado, I had a full-time position that I worked at in Colorado. And when I lost that position, I qualified for unemployment, but they did not, basically the series of time, like the months of time that they were supposed to consider for your wages, they only considered the wages I earned in Colorado. And there's basically federal law that says they have to allow for cross-state wages. If I work for 1/2 the year in another state and 1/2 in the state I'm in, they're supposed to consider all of my employment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Especially, I know with the tech sector, I feel that they use like the contract labor stuff as a way to kind of like deny your employee rights, and give you fewer benefits and pay you less. So that definitely tracks with what I know about that. And so when you, like, I didn't know any of that. So this is all this stuff that about the unemployment law. This is all just like self-taught. Like you just looked up the laws yourself and figured out that they were.
I looked it up when it happened in 2023. I was like, I wasn't sure exactly what exact yeah, like how it was supposed to be handled. And then I did the research, and it was very basic, fundamental stuff. Like they're supposed to consider over a 9-month period all of your wages. And there's only a few exceptions where they don't want people to double dip, essentially, where they don't want you to be able to collect unemployment benefits in one state and another state simultaneously. And that's, I think, kind of what the issue was, is they were trying to say, oh, no double dipping. And really the heart of the matter is they never let me appeal it. They never let me discuss it. They just said, we're only paying you like 1/10 of what you're supposed to get. Case closed.
Wow. So you didn't even have the opportunity to appeal.
It actually is. So the appeal system within Colorado was you're only allowed to appeal what they tell you you're allowed to appeal.
Wow.
My situation was I was allowed to appeal withdrawing my entire application, like saying I don't even want unemployment benefits. That's what I was that was the one thing I was in my profile that I could select from. And as a workaround, I actually chose that route and said in the comments, like, I am not trying to withdraw my application. I'm trying to discuss the underpayment of benefits. And they refused to even hear or discuss it. They limited the appeal to withdrawing my application.
Wow. I mean, right. So not an appeal at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the issue that I needed, at least.
Wow. Okay. That's wild. That's like really bad, even worse than I thought.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm petitioning for, is like, you should not, when it comes to having due process on your rights and your money and your property, you can't funnel things to say, well, you can only appeal or have due process on what we tell you. And I'm petitioning to say you need to have some sort of catch-all or other category that you can just like explain what the issue is.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's like they obviously don't. That seems like that's the system is by design, is because they don't want you to be able to do a meaningful appeal. So that's fucked.
Yeah, and the more I looked into it, what's crazy is I then started working, and I had a few more tech contracts, and then basically to even hold the state accountable, they have there's multiple things of immunities that they've created to protect themselves. I forget what the term is here in Colorado, but they basically said, like, we are making ourselves immune to anything except for if you get hurt at like a public park. Essentially, there's like one minor carve out, and then the other protections come from the 11th Amendment of the Constitution, which basically says states are immune unless they waive that right themselves, which, spoiler, that's never happened. Are you guys there?
Technical difficulties?
I'm having like a 62%.
Yes, no, sorry. We are still here, Josh. Yes, thank you so much for that context. So, one thing that I was curious about, I have my own experience with the Colorado unemployment system. I've been on unemployment in this state myself, and it's you guys are talking about and mentioning a lot of the issues with these barriers to entry, the horrible communication, the horrible user interface, all of these things that are more or less designed to make it so you can't use it, or you are so discouraged from using it that you just give up. And one thing that I was looking into a little bit more during my time of being on unemployment is just how absolutely repulsive and absolutely horrific the unemployment system in this country is compared to countries of comparable levels of, let's say, economic development. I think it comes as no surprise that the social welfare systems in this country are abominable, I think unemployment insurance is one of the places where that shines through the clearest. And I was just wondering if, in the course of your, it sounds like, extensive research into that topic, if you had any broader commentary about unemployment insurance and how it operates in this country in general.
Yeah, I mean, in my research, I saw that, the reason that it exists at all is that the Senate created this. Their logic was that they needed to provide economic stability for the country and its workers when they're in a place of vulnerability. And as we're seeing that the state is prioritizing call metrics and playing games, like you said, like engineering a frustrating system to dissuade and disenfranchise people from using it so that's one less person they have to pay out. And it violates everything that, the law itself stood for, of providing that stability, and that, it shouldn't have to, a lot of people's stability is just, a few weeks or months away from homelessness or destitution, or, not being able to afford your medical supplies and stuff. And at this point, it feels like we're asking them to do the bare minimum. And I think what we're seeing instead is that, in my amended complaint, I list that there's possible RICO retaliations of kickback schemes where they're essentially funneling a lot of these claimants into the U.S. bank system to get the U.S. reliacard. And that I've heard a lot of people talk on Reddit specifically about how they didn't want that. It had all these fees and restrictions, and that when they go in there to get their money, they're like coerced into opening a U.S. bank account. So it all seems like there's an elaborate scheme to just to have corruption and kickback and back end deals where somebody's getting a lot of money for opening all these U.S. bank accounts, and at the expense of taking it from our most vulnerable citizens. That it's like, stealing people's like nickel and dime people's like food stamps and lifelines and other things. And as you said, compared to other countries where they have mandatory vacation periods, it's like we are the most overworked and underpaid. And
yeah, I mean, we could open up the discussion into the absolutely criminal way that workers are treated in this country. But, you mentioned the reliacard. That's so funny. I have it in front of me. It's in my wallet. And yeah, I did receive the reliacard. I have to say, to their credit, because I got the notification. I didn't receive the notification when it was determined that I was eligible. But, I was so terrified in that it wound up being like 6 weeks from the day that I was laid off to the day that I actually started receiving benefits. And that was like a absolutely harrowing and miserable 6 weeks, as you can probably imagine. I did get the reliacard without like even expecting it. But there were so many issues with like getting my bank information into the Colorado UI system, and all of this coordination that you have to do just to receive these minimal benefits is absolutely mind-boggling. And one thing you mentioned, and one thing that I want to highlight here, is that in so many other, again, using the term developed countries, kind of slippery, but Western Europe and Canada, basically, like there is not a requirement or an understanding that at-will employment is the norm. At-will employment being the norm is a very aggressively antagonistic thing towards the working classes of this country, and it's not something that exists in so many other countries. Severance is associated with layoffs or just reductions in workforce in the United States, whereas like again in Western Europe, employers are required to give you ample notices, ample time that they are considering firing you. In often cases, even if they do have cause, they are still required to pay out your unemployment benefits. I just wanted to highlight that as one of the starkest reminders that this country treats its workers like fucking serfs, and it's disgusting. And Josh, just to throw the question back to you, I want to see if you had any thoughts about the kind of at-will employment regimen that effectively every worker in this country operates under.
Yeah, I actually, in 2019, I actually filed a employment discrimination suit for a company I was working at in Pennsylvania. And I had to understand, like, what is at will? Like, you basically don't have the right to work. It's a privilege that they can withhold from you or take away at any time for any or no reason. And then the only slight exceptions is if they base that termination on retaliation, whistleblowing, or discriminating against like a disability, which is what I alleged in my instance. But yeah, it's I mentioned earlier I've been working as a contractor, because even in the IT field, a lot of these big tech companies are saying, well, why would we need the liability of paying somebody even as an employee, even an at-will employee, when we can take one step back from that, not even pay them benefits or pay time off or sick leave or anything, and just do an ad hoc, well, we just need to fix this one thing. Let's hire someone just to do that. And then we just don't have an IT department. And we're seeing kind of the erosion of the working class with that, and with, automation and AI, basically all of our jobs are basically going away. There really is no safe field for anyone anymore.
I have a follow-up question about the U.S. bank situation. So, sorry if and you may have already answered this. I have ADHD and a squirrel brain. But what the fuck is up with the U.S.? Like, they're trying to do you have to get a U.S. bank account to get your unemployment benefits? Like, what's going on with that?
So I'm happy to talk about that. In my instance, I actually recorded my phone call with one of the unemployment agents and then transcribed it into writing using software. And in this conversation, this representative tells me that the bank that I've submitted online is not accepted. It's being rejected from their system, and that the only way that I can move forward or have my account be processed is to accept the reliacard. And I responded saying, at no point am I choosing or do I want the reliacard at all. I'd like the opportunity to put in a different bank. Like, I have multiple institutions that I have accounts with, and I'm sure one of them should work. And he essentially said, no, if you want me to help you or process your account at all, you're going to have to agree and accept to the terms and take the reliacard now. And so it felt like I had to, under duress of having my claim processed, accept the reliacard. And what's really terrifying is the account that he said, I bank with the Navy Federal Credit Union because my father served in the Coast Guard, was he said that account would not work. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, by the end of it, I was getting direct deposits into the account that he claimed was not acceptable. So it seems like they're lying or telling people or funneling, or just outright fraudulently telling people their account or bank isn't included in who they accept, just to funnel and force people to take the reliacard.
My jaw is on the fucking floor right now. Like, we had to blow the lid off this thing. Are you kidding me? Like, I bet you anything. Everyone, I'm alleging. I wonder if they get bonuses or, whatever, good, a little check on their performance review for how many fucking accounts that they force people to open like this. Just like if you work retail and you get, pressured into trying to get people to open store cards. Like, I wonder if these reps that you're talking to on the phone are getting some kind of benefit out of forcing you to open. Like, wow, here's out of control.
Here's what's scary is the actual workers themselves might not get any kind of kickbacks or incentives themselves, but it's their managers might be training them this way. And then the managers might not be getting any kickbacks. It might just be that, the director who set up that contract in the first place, maybe he's getting a juicy spot on the board, 5 years from now. Like, a lot of these things they're so convoluted, and if there's not a direct paper trail, it's almost impossible to prove. But it's like, in this one, it's almost so obvious that somebody's profiting, somebody has incentives to do this. And in my amendment to my complaint, I'm requesting limited discovery to see those contracts and see those agreements and see if I can find, any kickbacks that would qualify for a RICO or, this is not a joke, but in the Senate, there's an Act 666, which is about kickback and bribery and corruption that would kick in if I do get my hands on any evidence of that.
Wow, that is, this is blowing my mind right now. This is, crazy.
Yeah, it really doesn't sit right with me about the the Navy credit union not being approved, because that's freaking wild.
AJ, you said you had the reliacard. Did they reject or tell you one of your banks wasn't compatible or something?
Yes, that is exactly what happened. In this one, I do think partially user error, partially First Bank being dog shit. Because this is such a stupid goddamn story, but like I had to type out the word first rather than using one ST for the bank to link. And that's how I remember when I got the notification that a claim was approved, I was like frantically calling them like, I haven't been able to link you know what I had to do is open another fucking bank account after I got the notice that it was approved. And then they did send me the back pay on the reliacard. So I was kind of dragooned into opening up a new bank account with Chase, because whatever the fuck. And First Bank is dog shit. And I did get the reliacard. But yeah, stupid process.
I think what's scary is they don't have a list of pre-approved organizations, or it seems that they can just, every day you call, it's a different story of which bank is or isn't accepted. The fact that they don't list which ones, or that there's not a no fee option. That reliacard comes with considerable fees, and some of them are only after inactivity. So if you have, $10 left on there that you can't take out of an ATM, after a few months, they're going to just, slowly siphon that to zero. And then, who's profiting in that situation?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's disgusting for sure.
So, sorry, circling back a little bit to your petition, and just I'm just curious why you've chosen to self-represent so much. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so this is something I've had to do my entire life. I've kind of faced injustices my entire life, and I've gone down that route of calling the Bar Association, calling pro bono, the legal aid, all the forums, and just making cold calls to attorneys' offices and firms. And eventually I just kind of learned that unless you can throw $10,000 to $20,000 retainer at somebody, nobody is going to listen to you or care about your case. And I've seen that even if you hand them a slam dunk case on like a silver platter, it's like not even good enough. You have to have money to talk to these people. And if you're poor or screwed over or can't afford that or don't have the connections, you just have to do it yourself. And it is unfortunate because there's a lot of bias and prejudice about people who represent themselves or go pro se. And to their point, like most people who try it for the first time kind of make a fool of themselves. And a lot of the people who work in that industry, other attorneys and judges, are kind of sick of having to deal with that. But I'm somebody who's extremely competent, and I've been doing this for over 12 years, representing myself in over, I guess, almost 15 cases now. And in this case in particular, what I'm suing for is, in federal court, is I'm asking for declarations from the court saying that this is unconstitutional, as well as injunctive relief saying the court is ordering them to reform or make changes to their system. The key difference is that these are not monetary claims where I'm saying, well, you owe me millions of dollars, or other claimants millions of dollars, because the federal courts have limitations in what they can do, or the jurisdiction of ordering the back pay and stuff. They basically are not allowed to do that. And I guess ultimately what I'm saying is, with the 11th Amendment and other immunities, is there's no money in it. So unless you get somebody to do it as like a pro bono or civil rights, and for free, there's not going to be a payday that a traditional attorney would, need to get to consider representing somebody.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's really cool. What's your case experience been like your outcomes?
So far I'd like to say that I've won almost all of them, in that what I've realized is that a lot of these cases end in settlement, where you make these concessions that aren't perfect, or you think you're entitled to more, but it's in my favor. And the irony in that is, by taking a settlement, you don't have like an official win on your record necessarily of saying, oh, I've proven this or won this. You usually get to the point where you did prove or would win, and then that's when they want to offer you money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see that a lot. Especially with like all the Denver Police Department, I can't remember the exact terminology, but like the misuse of force cases that we've seen over the last 5 years. Oh, cool. I think it's really awesome that you've taken the time to educate yourself to be able to successfully represent yourself. Because yeah, like what you were saying about the negative connotations around being pro se are definitely prolific, but just because you're pro se doesn't mean you're incompetent. So,
well, I think what's scary is even attorneys that when they represent themselves also experience that backlash from judges and other stuff, where they're like, oh, you're not playing the game of, paying some other attorney, so we're going to come down on you 10 times harder.
That's wild. Yeah, there's so much fucking money in this shit. It's really gross. It's really gross.
Right, because what unemployed, like if I'm unemployed and I'm struggling to like get my unemployment benefits, I don't have 10 grand around to throw at some fucking attorney. Right. So it's like, that's just, and that basically is like, I've learned this throughout the years, is that is our legal system. It's like, if you don't have money, functionally, there is no justice for you. There is no legal system for you, unless you, like you said, unless you can find an attorney to represent you, on contingency, which, those suits have to be, there has to be money in it for them in order for it to be worth it, or they have to be like very, committed to their principles and their values, in order to work for free. Like, if you don't have those resources, then functionally there's nothing for you. And that's, and it's one of those things where it's like, obviously the system has a vested interest in sort of painting pro se representation as, crazy, unserious people. Like there's a reason. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. There's a reason why, people are portrayed in that way, because they don't want the working class to have that kind of power. So yeah, definitely props to you for fighting the fight.
I appreciate that, and I think you hit on a really important thing there with like not being, not having $10,000, is like our justice system is already designed with within the criminal proceedings that you have like the right to an attorney if it's a criminal matter. But unfortunately, that doesn't extend to the civil matter. And I think that that's one of our biggest shortfalls of this country, is we need to be able to have, like a court-appointed attorney for people who can't afford them. I think would solve a lot of these type of issues. Obviously, that's easier said than done, to open that Pandora's box. But I just want to comment that it's funny. They say, oh yeah, if you're looking at a day in jail, of course we're going to give you an attorney. But if your life's in shambles and you're about to face destitution and lose it all in an injustice, no, we don't have any resources for you.
I think that speaks so clearly to the general distinction of like negative versus positive rights. Whereas one thing that I do think the United States kind of fell backwards into doing somewhat well is like negative rights, where like there is some level of protection from things like government overreach, like search and seizure and all that stuff, and needing a warrant. Okay, fine. But one thing this country does abominably is providing any kind of positive rights, right? Like any kind of recourse or institutional access towards providing things for its people, rather than protecting people from government overreach. It does that to varying degrees, but it does nothing to provide them with the means or the recourses or the access to, like financial security or health security or anything like that. Josh, I do want to ask, because we quote unquote met because you posted in the main Denver subreddit about your case and everything that's going on with all of this stuff. What has been the kind of public response or public feedback that you've received when you talk about this stuff or do things like post on social media?
So it's a pretty interesting comments. I mean, the direct messages that I get seem to, about 1 out of 10 people are criticizing me, like, who do you think you are? You're not an attorney. You don't know anything about law. Like, you're a jackass. Where the other 9 out of 10 people are like, thank you so much. I've experienced exactly this, and I was so mad, and I wish I could have done something, and like, I'm so happy to see somebody doing something.
Okay. Well, those people who get on your case for not being an attorney certainly are weird, and I would encourage them to find better things to do. Do you get any pushback from people who are like, anyone who uses unemployment is a leech, or like, the kind of like welfare queen bullshit? Do you get any flack from that?
Actually, no, really not at all. I think a lot of people make that distinction between like food stamps, welfare, and unemployment is like, I think, where people draw the line, and where I personally haven't experienced anyone that like had that type of viewpoint.
Well, that's good. That's encouraging. And yeah, that's like, I can't even imagine taking the time to DM someone and be like, how dare you not use an attorney? It's like, it's low key, the Colorado Bar Association astroturfing. Yeah, I'm tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist over here. So you have started I believe it's a nonprofit called Just Liberty. Could you tell us a little bit about like why you started that and what you do?
Yeah. So yeah, Just Liberty Incorporated is a nonprofit I created. You can find it on truejust.org. And I created it because, or I guess the origin of its naming was, I have a dog named Liberty. She was a rescue. She came with that name, and she kind of taught me a lot of life lessons that kind of helped me reorient myself in life. And I wanted to dedicate the nonprofit to my dog for inspiring me and motivating me in those ways. But the actual nonprofit itself has two platforms right now: Just Legal and Just Politics. There's also a Just Media that I created that has some independent journalism that I've covered with, like King Soopers had their labor strike last year, and I covered what I consider to be pretty egregious violations by the union that was supposedly representing them during that time. But my main mission is with Just Legal, where it's a legal platform that empowers users like myself who have, or it was inspired by the shortcomings of the existing system, where I realized that managing a case for the average person is next to impossible. To actually see it from, filing a complaint to getting a judgment or a settlement is a task that most people would find overwhelming. The legalese behind the convoluted words and forms and timelines, and it kind of gave me the inspiration to create this platform so that it could empower and educate users on how to fight back or take justice into their own hands, like I have in the past, or at the very least, what I'm currently engineering it to make it easier for people to get legal consultations or explain or track the legal issues that they're having. I'm not sure if you want me to talk more about that or where to actually go from there.
Yeah, sure. Tell us more.
So yeah, the current format is it kind of allows users, when they go on the website, it's all 100% free, and when you go on there, you can create a case and you put your name versus the other person's name. You can fill in all the information, the jurisdiction, the dates, the events that happen, and you're able to upload documents. And the feature that I am proudest of this is that there's a print summary feature that after you fill in a case, you can hit print and it creates like a 1 or 2 page summary of the entire case and all the documents and things that have happened in it. And then you can use that to kind of, ultimately I want to add more features in the it can already do that, but I'm trying to add features to give like AI analysis, saying like, here's your case. From your perspective, it sounds like you need to consider this, that, or the other. But at the very least, with the summary right now, is that you can take your summary and email that to an attorney or a legal aid person to actually get a proper consultation. Because like I mentioned this before, like calling attorneys firms and kind of repeat, tell me what happened. And then it's like by the 10th time you're making the call, you're just so exhausted and disenfranchised. You're just like, I don't know, something bad happened. And, then obviously nobody's going to take that case. So I wanted to make it streamlined. I wanted to make it like a standardized process that it could open up explaining and tracking your case, so that if you need to work with other legal professionals or just want to manage it yourself, you have all the tools and ability to summarize and answer all those questions to get a proper consultation.
Wow, that's really cool. Thank you for that. I just have a follow-up question because I am in DSA and we did a little bit of strike support for King Soopers, and I have kind of kept in contact with my local, I see my local King Super staff when I shop there, and it did seem like they did the strike and it seemed like they didn't, like, I don't really know what they got out of it. So I would love to know more about how you, like your thoughts on how the union was like maybe not doing the best job.
Yeah. So I went out and talked to one of the actual people protesting on the street or in front of a King Soopers and asked them about what was going on. And they were essentially explaining to me that if they wanted to get paid, their new job was protesting, that this wasn't like an option. It like went from your job is a deli clerk or a cashier to your job is now to stand outside in 10-degree weather with a sign if you want to get paid. And that it didn't even really affect the stores because they hired, I guess the term scabs, from other states and flew them in to staff the stores. So the whole idea of like the workers are leaving, there's nobody inside, is undercut when they're essentially allowing the store to function and still be a business. But the more I looked into it after that, after I had those conversations, I was like, well, what's the history? What's the money behind this? And it follows a failed merger where King Soopers, Kroger was going to make a big merger with someone else, and a court denied that merger because they said that they were concerned about monopoly, where if they approved that merger, they would become too powerful and could basically abuse or set prices. And then the deeper I looked at Union 7 or whichever one represented the people I was looking at, about 10,000 individuals had spent $0 on lobbying and like $15 million on like administrative costs of just like having an office and company car. And meanwhile, the workers that were outside in 10-degree weather, most of them didn't seem to have coats, or there was no heat sources for them, or it was just snowing. And shortly after I wrote that article, towards the end of the protest, I did see that they put out heating elements and butane, or some sort of thing to help them stay a little bit warm. But it seemed like it was all a charade. Like it was all just they're protesting, but meanwhile the actual back end, there was nothing happening. There was nobody fighting for better pay, better wages, for lobbying, and it all just seemed to just be a show that they could say, see, like they're doing something, but it was just, like I said, a farce.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating that you're doing this kind of like in real time, on the ground reporting and looking into all of these different issues around the city. I think it's so important that people are turning their attention to these type of things. And yeah, I mean, obviously we are a deeply pro-worker and pro-union show, but that does not mean that, they themselves are above scrutiny or comment or investigation. So, Josh, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you want to add, or that you'd like people to know about you or your situation, or your thoughts about literally anything? I'll throw you that question.
I didn't really have anything else to add. I just, thanks for letting me talk about this. I just appreciate being able to express, my journey and what I'm doing, what I'm trying to fight for here. And just thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. This has been such a great interview. I think we didn't really know what to expect. And I have learned a lot from you. So please keep us updated on, what's going on with your lawsuit and everything. Definitely, we don't moderate r/Denver. But like, if you ever want to come over to Denver protests, we are very much a, leftist pro-worker, pro-working class subreddit. So we would love to, hear any updates about the work that you're doing whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll try and coordinate with AJ to get added to those groups and try and stay in touch. I would like that.
Yeah, man, open invitation. Well, Josh, thanks again. I hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and hope to see you out there.
Great, thanks. Bye, guys.